Hi, I'm Amanda Yee, and this is my summary of my caffeine survey project. Most of my friends drink caffeine, and lots of it. Unfortunately, my friends, also in several AP classes, also drink copious amounts of caffeine. The most often cited reason? Too many hard AP classes, leading to a lack of sleep and a need for caffeine to stay awake during the day. My observation of this consistent reason for caffeine consumption led me to question, if the number of AP, IB, or post-AP classes increases, then does the amount of caffeine consumed per week increase as well? Here are some facts about caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant that causes alertness. It excites the central nervous system, which causes the drinker to be alert. Around 73% of kids and adolescents drink caffeine, and around 80% of adults drink it. However, adolescents should only drink 100 milligrams per day to be safe. Adults should only have 400 milligrams per day. Caffeine can be deadly in high amounts, as seen in a South Carolina teenager a few years ago who died from a caffeine overdose. To collect data, I created a Google Form survey and emailed it to my close friends. Then I put the link to the survey on my Instagram story. However, I needed a more random group of samples, so I entered the names of all the electives my school offers into a random generator and sent the survey to the teachers of the classes that were chosen. Finally, to ensure that the classes I chose actually had students who take AP classes, I chose 2 classes that have a good mix of juniors and seniors, Calculus BC and World Religions. Overall, I obtained a total of 129 valid responses. The first statistical method I used was a hypothesis test for a correlation coefficient at the 95% significance level to determine if there was a correlation between the number of AP, IB, post-AP classes a student takes and their caffeine intake. The null hypothesis was that the population correlation coefficient would be 0, and the alternative hypothesis was that the population correlation coefficient would not be 0, indicating significant correlation. From the data, I found that the correlation coefficient indicated a very low negative correlation. Upon further calculation, I found that the p-value of the data was larger than the allowed error of 0.05, indicating that there is not enough evidence to conclude that there is a significant linear correlation. The horizontal axis of the graph showing the data points and linear regression line is the number of AP, IB, or post-AP classes taken, and the vertical axis is the milligrams of caffeine consumed. However, you can see that there are many data points that are very far from the linear regression line. Since there was not enough evidence to conclude significance of the correlation, a better prediction model is the average of all the y values collected from the survey rather than the linear regression equation, with the y values being the milligrams of caffeine. The second statistical method I used was a test for independence. The null hypothesis was that caffeine intake is independent of the number of AP, IB, or post-AP students a student takes, and the alternative hypothesis was that the 2 factors are dependent at the 95% significance level. Then I organized the data into the chart below, showing the observed values, and used Excel to calculate the expected values in the test statistic. The test statistics was not in the critical region, so I could not support the hypothesis that caffeine intake is dependent on the number of AP, IB, or post-AP courses a student takes. Overall, from these 2 statistical tests, I could not find enough evidence to support correlation or dependence between the number of AP, IB, or post-AP classes a student takes and their caffeine intake. Conclusion. There were several variables and limitations that affected the results of my project. One of these was that there is strong non-response bias since I used the survey to collect data. Another limitation was that since most of the people I know are upperclassmen at Jesuit, those were the majority of the people who responded to my survey. Getting responses from schools that are not in the area would be more representative of the population of high schoolers. From research, an adolescent's caffeine drinking habits are usually established from family habits rather than the amount of classes they take, which supports my finding that harder classes don't necessarily result in increased caffeine consumption. In addition, research has found that some teens drink caffeine out of a pressure to do well in other aspects of life, such as extracurriculars, which are not necessarily academic. That means that more hard classes does not necessarily equal more caffeine consumption. Thanks for watching!